So if I was killed, and would we still be married? And I came back. Sorry, don't get any ideas.
What if I had already remarried?
That's quick. I was dead for like 10 minutes.
Hey, I got a line.
And we are live, folks. Welcome to Sit Down Standards Got Review, Episode 3, Oathbreaker. Now, again, there's going to be tons of spoilers here. We're going to talk about the full episode. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it. Then come back and check out our review. Again, my name's David. I'm here with my wife, Alyssa.
Hello.
And let's just jump right into it. The first thing in this episode, again, this episode was moving all over the place. The show has...
It has been the whole season.
It's breakneck speed.
It's very busy, yeah.
So we get a previously on, and normally like on a previously on, we get like one or two scenes. I wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different scenes that
I feel like they're hitting whichever characters you're going to be seeing.
Yeah.
And just to remind you really quick.
Exactly. They pick up on Danny, the Harpies, Sam and Gilly. They pick up on Leanne and the Tomb. They pick up on Tommen. They pick up on the Many-Faced Gods, which they explore all of these in that breakneck speed, which I don't necessarily dislike that. I do like the previously on is probably more helpful now than it normally has ever been. But we open up the first scene with Davos's face in the room with Jon, which I absolutely loved because I was afraid they were going to... essentially hold on this Jon's alive thing for a couple more. Like, what happened with Jon? But no, this season is kind of one of those, the last episode really just...
It starts right where it's...
Right, there's no gap in time in between.
Yeah. Can they give a man some clothes?
Hey, well, listen, they got
to
we got to give those HBO viewers the...
Give the ladies a show.
Exactly. But Jon wakes up. We were kind of worried about... what was going to happen if we talked about that, when someone comes back, they lose something. We thought maybe he might be evil. He appears not to be evil, but obviously towards the end of the episode, he kind of has he's like, screw it.
I think he's broken.
Yeah, definitely. I think as much as the faith seems to be restored in Melisandre, because she comes in and she has this look on her face like
what did I do?
It worked. But towards the end of the episode, he's all of his faith in, I think, humanity and... the good in people and doing the right thing are essentially lost.
Do you feel, though, that Melisandre maybe lost some again when she asked, where did you go? What did you see?
And he says...
nothing.
Oh.
I feel like that was, for her...
It's kind of a shot at a lot of things, but yeah, he's like, nothing. And she says, no, the Lord of Light was holding...
Wouldn't have brought you back unless there was...
some reason.
Yeah.
But again, I love Davos being the pragmatic person. He's like, look, you're alive. You should be dead. So let's go out and do something important.
Right.
Where Jon essentially, I think the line is, I failed. And he's like, well, go fail again. He's like, I want you to keep trying. Then he walks out and we see the Night's Watch reaction to, again, the perfect reaction. They get the kind of freaked out look. All the people are like...
Are you a ghost? Are you a zombie?
Yeah, are you looking at his eyes? Are you sure you're not a White Walker? But then, of course, we get this great diffusion of that tension with Tormund when he says, oh, people say you're a god. And he's like, I'm no god. He's like, I saw your pecker. There's no god with a pecker. So, again, Game of Thrones does a really good job of that tension, and then release with some comedy. And then again, I wrote down here bro hugs because he gives all of his bros some hugs.
Yeah.
And it's just it's great to, of course, have Jon back. There's not a tremendous amount that happens with him. Towards the end of the episode, we get something. But once we're done with essentially the reunion of Jon with all of his guys, we jump to somebody we haven't seen in a while. We jump to Sam and Gilly. And Sam, of course, is on a boat, and of course...
Of course, Sam's the one that's seasick and not Gilly.
Yeah, he has to be. He's just such a loser.
He's not a loser.
I know, but you know what I mean.
Guy, yeah.
He's a good guy, but he, of course, has all of the weaknesses that you want, or don't want, I should say. Now, Gilly seems very excited to be heading to the Citadel. She talks about she's now learned how to read. I love her commentary about, why I called it the sea, because you can see as far as you can see. So, again, you see her character progressing and becoming more knowledgeable about the real world and not, obviously, she was very sheltered. She was super sheltered. But, of course, Sam pulls a surprise on her and says, you're going to meet my folks!
Hey!
Surprise family meeting.
In-laws.
But it's really, he's just trying to protect them, and he obviously realizes that the Citadel, she can't come with him.
Well, that's all he's ever done.
Is just try to help.
He's probably been one of the most stand-up guys on the show.
Yeah, he's one of the few. But the one line that I really wanted here is that she says, "You're the father of my son." So, like, obviously he's not the actual father of her son.
Right.
But I appreciate that. I like that line. And
You've taken that role.
Right. And she understands that he's just trying to do what's best for her and little Sam. And that's great for characters to realize that, because he's like, I wish she would just throw things at me and storm off. Like,
it'd be a lot easier.
Yeah, just be upset with me rather than just be, disappointed or understand the decision I'm making is the hard one that I probably don't want to make. Then we go back in time. We're green seeing now with Bran, and we get to see Ned again.
The man in the tree.
Ned is in the show again. Absolutely love it.
He's your favorite character.
He's my favorite character. By the way, the actor that they got to play Ned as young Ned looks just like Sean Bean. Like, holy moly! Like, good job. We get this great sword fight, which we normally don't see. A lot of times in Game of Thrones, they have these epic battles and they like kind of cut to something and then they show like... It
was a good length scene, which it's not fair. 2 swords to 1 sword.
I wrote down here, I was
fair.
like... But you said, you were like, oh, come on, that's not fair. 1 on 4. And then I wrote 1 on 4 and then I wrote 3, 2, 1. I mean, this guy, I think his name was, I forget what his name, the Morning Sword, I think was the name, was obviously, it seems like his sister, Leanne, is in that tower. But a great scene. I like that the green seeing effect of Bran and having these flashbacks really do fill in a lot of the motivations and the reasoning for what all of this happened. And even in the previously, Littlefinger talks about, man, Leanne's really kind of the big problem, not the problem, but she's the catalyst that started all of this.
Right.
So now we're going to kind of get that background of how everything kind of fell into motion. And we see that Ned, because, when we think of Ned is one of the few, kind of like Sam, he's one of the most noble characters that always seemed to do the right thing, even when it was the difficult decision to make. But we learned from this flashback that maybe he wasn't completely a saint. Bran talks about hearing about this story about how his father...
It was a different version.
Yeah, his buddy stabbed him, or not his buddy, but Ned's buddy stabbed him in the back.
Well, Ned finished it.
Yeah, but that's in battle, that's pretty, yellow of him. But he comes back, so it's interesting for him to share the story his way, to see that maybe Ned had his flaws and wasn't as perfect as everybody wanted. What do we always say? Every sinner has a future and every saint has a past, right? So Ned might not be as nice as you might have thought. And then I love the fact that he screams out to his father.
And he stops.
And he goes... Oh, wow. I'm like, wait, not only can you Bran is pretty much the coolest character. I mean, he can jump into animals, he can jump into people.
He can do pretty much anything.
Yeah, and then he can go green sea and go back in time, and then now it appears that he might be able to kind of reach and have, kind of like ghosts, like...
Very dangerous line.
Yeah. So, but it seems like this whole point is to teach Bran to learn everything. Which is great. I'm excited to have the show kind of teach us everything. I think is what kind of that means, is that we're going to finally get that background of what made Ned, be Ned, what made Robert Baratheon, who was Leanne. All of these questions will be answered, and will be answered through Bran. So I'm like, don't leave the tree yet. We're not done figuring out what happened.
They're not going to leave till he learns.
Yeah. So, then we move again, because we keep talking about breakneck speed with this season. We move to Khaleesi, still moving with the Dothraki, still having to walk. She's not getting her...
Give a woman a horse.
No, she's not going to get it. But I love the scene when she looks up, because every time it seems like she's like, where's my dragons? Please come back. But
I thought there was at first when she was looking up. I was like, does she see her dragons?
Drogo,
yeah, she was just looking at the
giant horses.
Statue,
yeah. So, and we get the home city of the Dothraki. It appears in the title crawl. So they kind of scroll over it kind of fast, because they went at like a weird angle. So I don't even know what the name of the city. Let us know in the comments what the name of the city is. Then, of course, she's taken to the widow's palace, I'm guessing, or some kind of building, stripped of all of her worldly possessions that she had before, and given the same clothing.
But we're not shown anything.
Yeah, well, Emily Clark has not agreed to Amelia Clark. Sorry. We hear about from the widow of Cal Salvo, who. When your Cal dies, you're supposed to immediately come. Right. And you went out and you traveled the world, you did all these great things, and that's all great and good. But guess what? It's forbidden by our law. You were actually breaking our traditions and our oaths. So again, Oathbreaker. We see kind of the consequences is everybody breaking their oaths, and we'll get to the last one, of course. But now there's some type of council that's obviously going to decide the fate of whether Khaleesi can even stay with these widows.
So if she doesn't, she's saying if you do stay, that's the best path for you.
Yeah,
so we don't want to know the alternative.
Yeah. I'm interested because, Khaleesi has been, she obviously started the whole series as basically a very timid, shy character, and has been built up, all of her titles, Mother of Dragons, Breaker of Chains, and now she's broken back down to basically nothing again, and she'll have to rise herself up again, or a dragon will show up, one of the two. Then we jump to Meereen. We see Lord Varys, being the spider that he is, spinning a new web. He is doing his little spy training with a character named Vala, who previously we find out she was one of the women who was kind of
distracting them,
the Unsullied, and he got his throat slit. So she's obviously working with the Harpies. I actually thought Varys was maybe working with the Sons of Harpy. You know how he's always this kind of the spider. He's always the spy.
He's everywhere.
But it appears he's on Tyrion's side, not on the Sons of Harpy. But we still don't know. He threatens the son. I mean, he's doing like the old school New Jersey gangster. Hey, you got a beautiful son. It'd be terrible if anything happened to him. But of course, offers silver and a ship to Pentos, and she's all but good to go. Next scene, we're still in Meereen. We get the Tyrion wanting to. You guys want to play a game, and it's so interesting to see this combination of Tyrion, who's this lighthearted, great character, with these very stiff Grey Worm character, where it's just great to see that interaction, because a lot of the interaction that we see is Varys and Tyrion, and it's kind of this Ungard touche rapport. It's just, but here he's just like, man, I can't even carry on a conversation with you guys. You're so dull.
Well, they were never allowed to have personalities.
Right, exactly. You see the result of them just being either slaves or being soldiers, and Tyrion like, man, you guys can't even carry on a conversation. He's like, that's a report, that's not a conversation.
And even when he said bring out, we play games, she's like, oh, my master, we used to play games. He's like, no.
No, not those kind of games. So it also shows kind of how, like you said, those characters really don't have personality. They serve a single purpose, and that's pretty much it. But we do learn something very important, that there are 3 different groups of people that are essentially funding the Sons of Harpy, and it looks like they're going to. She says something about Khaleesi's assistant. I think her name is Miyasandi, or I don't remember her specific name, but she talks about we need to speak their same language.
Right, they only speak one.
Only speak one language. So I'm interested to see where this kind of goes. If it's going to be this kind of battle, where it seems like Grey Worm's like, we have to fight, and he's like, no, it's a conversation, and I don't know if he means like it's this. We have to negotiate through.
Well, that's all he knows is to fight, so of course he says.
Right, and then of course Tyrion.
Tyrion is a conversator.
Yeah, exactly. So again, a great scene kind of sets up what's going on in Meereen. Kind of, it looks like it's going to be the Sons of Harpy versus kind of this smaller council that's left over.
So they're just moving forward without Khaleesi.
Yeah, well, they have to. I mean, so they don't know where she's at. They did send off. We still have.
Well, sure, they're still looking.
Jorah and I can't remember. So many characters.
I'm so bad with names.
Out looking for her, but it appears they're not going to find her. Again, then we move back to, again, we're running across the ocean now. We're back in King's Landing at the Red Keep. We see the children spies. This is kind of creepy and also interesting, because we always heard about all of the little birds. The little birds, and of course they're kids. And he even says, Varys, before we jump over to King's Landing, says, I always trust the little birds.
More than I trust.
Because they're children. They they have no reason to lie. Their only motivation is delicious candy. But it was that creepy, like, get in my van, like, I got candy, kids. It was like, it definitely played up the creepiness of Qyburn. The one thing also I wrote here, Cersei clearly is just not learned. Like, her vengeance is just, she just wants to be revenge is all she ever sees. Yeah. I was hoping she was going to have some development, but no, it's just, I want to know everybody who's talking crap, and I'm going to work to kill them all. It would
be Cersei.
I know, but it's just like, it's so paint by numbers. Like, we know she's going to be pissed and she's going to hate everybody. Then we jump into a small council meeting. Yeah. We see some characters we haven't seen in a while. We see Pycelle, the Maester. We see Queen of Roses. We see the uncle of Cersei. We see there was a weird part in this where Pycelle farts, and I was just like, really? Like it was really stupid. I mean, like, really? Like, that's the joke? Like, I don't know. It just seems like the show's a little bit higher. I don't know. It was a very small, weird thing. But we essentially get this kind of standoff between Cersei, Cersei's kind of crew, and the small council. They're like, well, we don't have to make you leave, but we're not going to stay.
Right.
Get up and just walk the hell away. So again, it seems like Cersei and Jaime, which he talked about in the very first, we're all alone. Like it's just us against everyone else.
So I'm like, why don't they just throw them out of the?
Yeah, I don't know. I
know they're obviously King Tom, but
it's just weird.
Yeah.
But speaking of King Tommen, we get this great, finally some interaction with Tommen without it just being Cersei. He actually gets the nerve to go meet the High Sparrow and kind of talk to him about, dude, I'm the king. Like, why are you such a jerk?
Yeah. And but back up, like when the queen's there now,
the Queen of Roses?
Queen of Roses.
Yeah.
Why doesn't she just go get her?
Well, I think she can't. You know, they talk about that the Sparrow, the Sparrows have all these guards, so it's like we're not going to be able. The zombie mountain can't kill them all. But now it seems like Tommen might actually take some counsel from High Sparrow. He seems to sit down. Good. Probably not, but it couldn't be any worse than his mom.
Oh my gosh.
Talk about two bad counselors.
On both your shoulders weighing you.
Well, which one's the devil and which one's the angel, right?
Neither.
So, well, yeah, and I love the discussion about, my uncle said that once, and he talks about the love for your mother is through the mother, the gods and all of that. And it's great because the only really redeeming quality of Cersei is her love for her children.
Well, he kind of says, like, Cersei as your mom.
Right.
But, like, that's not who she is. Like, you have blinders on.
Right, of course. And he's like, yeah, she has a lot of sins to atone for. And then, okay, so now we cut away from that scene, and now we probably get to one of my favorite scenes in this episode. Probably my favorite scene, Arya. The freaking training, man. She's getting trained up.
I can't stand watching her get hit.
Oh, man, they do not pull punches with that.
I cringe every time.
Oh, she gets the hell beat out of her. But they also do this great back and forth, this dialogue of her history. Who is on your list? Who is your family? And she even gets hit when she says 4 brothers.
When she said 4, I was like, no.
She only have 3. One is a half. But she always had an affection for Jon. She always, and that's great for that. There's little things like that for just a little word through conversation that you get. Oh yeah, that's right. They had that bond and they had this. And then I heard the name Walder Frey, and I'm like, where's Walder Frey? Can we please kill him? HBO, do something. George R.R. Martin, when is that going to happen? But then I literally wrote in giant letters and underlined it. Assassin, dude. She is ready to go. When she turns around and has that stick, I'm like, I cannot wait to see her in full assassin action. But then she's asked to drink the water, and we both audibly were like, don't do it. You're going to die. Don't do it. But she has nothing to fear, so apparently this water can kill people and give you back your eyesight. Who knew? Pretty magical water. Vitamin water.
It's like the fountain of youth.
So now Arya is trained. She is without fear, and she is going to wreck.
All her senses are strong.
Yeah, she had to smell the powder. Yeah, just fantastic. Cannot wait for Arya to come back, just kicking ass. Then we jump back to Winterfell again, breakneck speed. Yeah. Jump to Winterfell. We see Lord Karstark, who's the guy who kind of helped. Well, he didn't help, but I'm pretty sure he knew Ramsay was going to kill his father. We get Lord Umber basically saying, hey, look, everyone pretty much knows you killed your dad because he was a jerk.
Right.
And asks for some aid. And I was like, oh, man, we're all going to get behind Ramsay? But it seemed like he was like, no, I'm not going to kiss your feet. I'm not going to kneel. But you are going to listen to me because I have a gift for you. And holy crap, Rickon is back. Rickon is back on the show. And the worst part, they killed his shaggy dog.
And they had to show it.
Yeah, and he put like a meat hook through the... it's just brutal, man. Stop killing the dogs.
Rickon, man,
I know.
Why is another Stark, like, just handed over?
I know.
Why?
To Ramsay, of all people. I'm like, oh, just the worst. So now, what is Ramsay going to do with Rickon?
I don't know, man.
I was hoping Rickon was going to say something. We haven't heard Rickon say a word. And again, he's all grown up. This show has a problem with some of these young actors. He looks way older than the last time we saw him. We saw him, he was like a little tyke. Yeah. But again, I'm excited to see where this goes. I tend to think Ramsay's going to either use him as an opportunity to get the Bannerman. He's going to... I think he might even turn him to another Reek. He might torture him to the point that he becomes his little pet. You know what I mean? So I'm really scared about that.
But another thing in that conversation before we brought him in was that, the wildlings, we need to be protected. Jon Snow's with them. And he's probably thinking that's where Sansa's headed to.
Right. Absolutely.
So...
So now we jump to Castle Black. We see Jon Snow again, Zombie Snow. Just kidding. And we see all of his traitors at the gallows. And any last words? I thought it was really interesting. You see kind of these three different characters offering three different last words. The first one is almost remorse, right? Like, hey, tell my mom that I've died fighting the wildlings, basically dying without, not necessarily without honor, but just showing like he fears death. Then we see Alistair, who talks about breaking his oath, but he says it was either betraying you or betraying the Night's Watch, and I would hope, knowing that I was going to die in this moment, I would make the same decision. I wouldn't
change what I did.
So he still thinks he was in the right.
Right, which is his character as.
I mean, he's different. Yeah. I mean, he's as loyal as they come. It's just he picked the wrong team, both from a viewer perspective and from his perspective. Then we get Ollie, which I think is the part where I think Jon, because he even says it when he wakes up, Ollie stabbed me in the heart. Like Ollie was my boy.
Like Ollie, yeah.
Like, but Ollie doesn't even say anything. He just scowls at him with the scorn of 1,000 suns, and that I think is what sets Jon for like, what am I doing? What's the point? You know what I mean?
This is never what I wanted.
No, this isn't. Right. I didn't want to kill Ollie, and they of course show the close-ups of the
I didn't think he was going to go through with it.
I didn't think so either. But
personally,
I think this is the part of Jon that's broken now. He breaks his oath. He says he hands over his giant.
So he's leaving the wall.
He's leaving. He says my watch is over, which technically I think they say one of the parts of the oath is until I die. Well, technically he was
Technically, he met the contract.
Exactly, he met the terms.
So of course. Game of Thrones being Game of Thrones, Jon's leaving, Sansa's coming, they're going to be crossing.
Two ships that cross that won't see each other. Damn it, just wait like one more episode, Jon. But where the hell is Jon going to go? Back to Winterfell, I suppose? I mean, I don't know where. I think he would go home. Well, Rickon's there, so at least maybe but he has no one with him. You know what I mean? Because they talk about Ramsay's going to take this crew of people and go take Castle Black. He's going to start heading north and start killing wildlings. So there's a lot of stuff that could happen. What I think is going to happen, I think Jon and Sansa will meet regardless. Somehow they'll meet in the middle of.
I just want all the siblings to meet.
Finally, yeah, let's have a nice family reunion. Come on, man. But let us know what you thought about the episode. Let us know where do you think Jon's going? They showed the Iron Islands. We didn't get anything in Pike. So again, there's a lot of stuff that was breakneck speed shown in this. But let us know what you thought. Let us know down in the comments down below. Until next time, bye.
See ya.